Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Joanna and I'm continuing to create those book reviews. And in today's video, we're gonna talk about Proven Psychological Manipulation Techniques by Emory Green. Knowledge is power. That's why I'm reviewing those books. And obviously because I realized that somebody was manipulating me. So I wanted to know what these people were doing. What is psychological manipulation? In a sense, manipulation is to psychologically convince someone else to feel a certain way or do certain something. The reasons to get powers, money, whatever it is. So let's repeat. Manipulation is to convince someone else to feel or do things they don't want for certain reason, and it can be sexual, commercial, political, financial, social, emotional. Okay, so and then he talks about the addictions, the advertisement, the social media, and overall um, dumping down, fake news, photoshopping, global marketing, the grooming techniques that are applied through advertisement, and other manipulation techniques that okay, there has been much talk about grooming, which can technically refer to anyone and any situation, but it's usually in relation to kids being targeted online by pedophiles posting, pretending to be other children, or older men trying to speak with very young people and whatnot. Psychological perspective. And then he talked about Machiavelli in this portion. I think this is a very nice book. His words are usually applied in shady statecraft and are really used as a compliment. Consequentialism. The Greek politician Demosthenes summed up this term as every advantage in the past is judged in the light of a final issue. Therefore, by implication, it's allowable to manipulate someone if the aims is good or believed good, whatever is the reason of manipulators. No? Back in ancient Athens, there was a population of teachers known as sophists. They could be heard to speak on your behalf. They could be hired to speak on your behalf in legal cases or instruct you in the art of good oral ability. The emphasis was not too necessary on the truth, but how it was said, or so-called rhetorical speech. Chapter 2. Welcome to the dark side. What is dark psychology and what make it dark? It's the intent, guys. So, what makes people bad is the decision that obsesses philosophy and social philosophy has done since beginning of time. People are not just born evil. Um, and then he talked about the American Psycho that was made by a movie. The blood splitting detail how some people can develop a real taste for an addiction, infliction of pain to others. So, what make a diabolical something or evil? It's not the knowledge of it, but the intent to use it to harm. Good and evil, radical evil. Kant said that in his belief in moral identity, And then we talk about the religion here because the religion describes the evil, of course. So in this belief, we have three core of basic aspects of who we are as a person: personality, animality, and humanity. Personality is fueled by rational thoughts, understanding, reason. Animality is the basic instinct, a sexual drive, survival, preservation of self, and social skills. Humanity, which is driven by impulse toward calculation, ambition, and comparison. This is by Kant. I do not fully agree with that, but hey, we are reviewing this book. Is it the source of all other wrongdoing and such is referred as a radical evil? The inclination toward championing ourselves corrupts all other behaviors and leads to depravity where the individual preferences become paramount and they would use other people as puppets to their desires independently if these desires are sick or good. De factor is another concept that tickles this inclination to manipulate others and do wrong. Zettler, professor in Copenhagen University, published their research in this in a special psychological review. The dark factor of psychology, or D. The other American, of course, created a G factor. His belief was that there was a level of general intelligence within individuals. In other words, if you are excellent in one type of cognitive test, you would be likely to be strong in others too. At such point, at the measure of cleverness. Zittler suggested some could be true and could someone tendency towards evil. The theory asks that the dark aspect of individual personality correlate. So if they have a dark aspect in one thing, it correlates or spread to other portion. And there is a little bit more about this. Dark personality we love to hate. Nine key traits make up a dark personality: egoism, self interest, psychological entitlement, spitefulness, sadism, and moral disengagement. With those nine traits, Poole, His, and Williams identified three core types: narcissism, Machiavellism, and psychopathy. Those trio of trails are what Pulpis term as a dark trade. And I think it's very interesting that he talked about Machiavellism, Machiavelli, Machiavelli. It comes from Machiavellism, Machiavelli, because most of the books just would talk about narcissism. Six dark traits to make you shudder. Egoism. It's the impulse to put oneself first at the expense of others. The word has a noederber, okay. And the Greek word is to be. More specifically, it's first person conjunctive I am. And in Latin means simply I, whereas in modern French, egoism means selfish. There is a selfish and unselfish egoism, and then closely connected to this trait is self interest. Breaking on self interest, okay. Fundamentally, this can be independently superiority complex that prompts certain individuals to believe that they are better than others and therefore deserving of special treatment. This is referred to as psychological entitlement. Some people, either as a result of a high IQ, wealth, great bone structure, and spotted childhood, spoiled belief that the world owes them something. Watch out for release valve of this frustration in controlling type can often express itself as spitefulness. This often springs from depth, this deep-seated insecurity and desire to put others down. Spitefulness, this insecurity and desire to put others down so they will also feel as low as depressed, as low and as depressed. So spitefulness, it's two phrases. I'm just gonna elaborate. So spitefulness is when insecure personality want to put others down so to make them feel low and depressed. And this is linked to sadism. This is when an individual actually receives sensory pleasure for inflicting on or witnessing others' mental, emotional, and physical discomfort. And then moral disengagement. Quite simply, those type do not see the wrongdoing in any action, whatever you call it, a sin or immorality or incapable regarding intellectual behavior abhorrent. In such operate guilt, regret, or any notable feelings. So what? It's not my fault to guide. So moral disengagement is also lack of emotions or lack of judging if something is possible, positive or not. So narcissism, Machiavellism, and psychopath. Narcissism, put simply, it's when individuals think much too highly of themselves, usually in terms of their looks, achievement, and attributes. They're checking their reflection in the mirror over your shoulders. Their vanity and ego give them pleasure at the expense of others. Controlling, needy, and always hungry for praise and perfection. They are the personality destructive when it comes to relationship, friendship, and environments. Okay, narcissism are self-absorbed, a positive but unfounded self-image, which is fake reality presentation or fake perception of the self. Affirmation is the cable. They will use soft tactics like flattery, gifts, emotional, and so on. They prey on the kind-hearted, love-struck, and generous. They are hypocritical. They will try to tear others down and devalue them. They are hypersensitive. Jealousy is a tool for them to use. It is true that they act as crowd pleasers. They often have a wide circle of acquaintances, although they rarely have a deep connections. They are typically attracted to good-looking popular achievers. They become bored easily by routine, particularly financially responsible failure to develop promises is common. You can recognize narcissists in public. They tend to favor creative individuals in the term of carers, and we can certainly identify a number of them in music, acting, TV. Machiavellism. Machiavellism. Those people hunger more for power and material gain than anything else. They will use cunning and calculation to achieve their desires through ruthless plotting and manipulation of people. It doesn't matter what it takes, could could well serve in gaining principle for those individuals, and this condition is named by Niccolo Machiavelli. This is Italian Renaissance man, mentioned briefly in chapter 1. Okay, the prince was, I have the book. We're gonna read this book, I promise you. I have bought the book because I think it's a piece of work. Machiavelli was certainly receiving a bad press over, okay. So in 1960, psychologists Richard Charles and Forel L. Studied Machiavelli writings and then ask people how much they agree with certain phrases. They use those findings to work on the Machiavellian scale, which determine the saintfulness and closest in whoever took the questionnaire. And this research was published in 1970 in Match 4 test, high match and low match. Signs of Machiavellism include they justify what they are doing because they want ambition and career power, interested in money, material possession, status symbol in general, overly confident, always working on schemas and plots to get with situations, usually involve people's weak spots to get step on others basically. Patience is overreading emotional marker as an important simply threats to upset their well laid plans. We will see more about their flexibility in the case studies found in chapter 5. In truthing, they believe consequences are for wimps, emotions are seen as impediments to success, so they don't have real connections to others. Other peoples are considered as a vehicle to get high match. They often study, observe other. They tend to see things practically rather than fantastically. Do whatever needs to be done. They use both soft and hard techniques to achieve aims. Psychopathy. Psychopathy. In 1941, psychologist Harvey Cleckley developed a checklist identifying with a strong psychopathic tendency, and we would do well to pay it consideration attentions. And then we talk about the G scale again, and here it is. Let's read those. Psychopathy tends to display characteristics. They are cold hearted and unconcerned about the feelings of others, but very charming. Despite the smile, they often have lifeless voice and eyes. They are quick to size others up and label them. They find the vulnerability of others quickly. They blame others for their own actions, often saying things like, "You make me do it." Similarly, there is no empathy or understanding of other people's plight. Narcissism implies towards self-aggrandizement. Aggrandizement. Self-aggrandizement uses hard tricks to get what they want. Threats. They are good and win people up, usually through psychical or physical charm and nasty games. As both as child and adult, pleasure is taken as harming others, cruelty and sadistically. It's widely reported, but for example, serial killer Albert DeSalvo, otherwise known as Boston Strangler, would torture animals as a child. Has unpredictable mood swings and is prone to bad temper. Very angry and then turn mean. Tend to be sexually promiscuous, which often couple with fantasies and sadomasochistic nature. Persuasive. The people with strong psychopathic tendency rarely get anxious and don't perspire under pressure. In 2012, Niels Barmore did a sweat test that bring him to conclude that those individuals may be less attuned to emotion than other people and less displaying fear, shame, embarrassment, and fear. Have no qualms in breaking the law. View people and things as disposable, high tolerance level to strong odors like garlic, dirt, which other people may find unpleasant and revolting, impulsive with long term goals or signs of planning for the future. They can be recognized in public eyes in the cinema. For example, Oscar worthy Joker, and so on. Hidden arts of how manipulation work. How to spot the evil, the tactics of the trade. Someone can use number of inner connection techniques to get what they want from you. Temptation can be used as an effective weapon. As example, take a colleague who needs help with report. They know you like sweets, so they will help or bring you a sweet, tempting you, and then asking for help. Closely connecting the first point to exploitation. In this case, someone takes advantage for their own benefit or gain if what may be seen as a weakness in you, either on your emotion, financial situation, or physical attitude. Exploit your kindness, for example. Deception is also used in various cases. Someone may not be honest about their intention uh, to get you to do something. For example, if they ask you, somebody ask me for money, things can take on darker note pressure if darker note pressure is involved. In this case, undue influence is exercised by someone in order for them to get their goal. It can be ostensibly innocent. Coercion is usually the pressure or the manipulation that someone exercises to make you perceive things the way they are not. It's yet another step further from that starts with psychological manipulation to develop into physical absence. It is when you are being forced or threatened to do something against your will. I can tell you question could be also very subtle, not so clear. I'm forcing you or threatening you. I coerce you to perceive situation. Perceive me as a homeless person, so you help me. Perceive me as a hungry person, so you give me money. Whatever. Question is just false representation of reality with aiming you because of this false idea you get to do X, Y, Z. Okay, flattery, charm. Fast compliments and attention are both sweet and poisonous. Anglo Irish philosopher flattery corrupts both the receiver and the giver. Charm, we cannot help but lower guard when someone is polite and full of smiles. Charm is the favorite approach of the dark trade. Well, stroking the ego. If someone tells you that you're expert, beautiful, clever, you're very likely to want to believe in that is true. People seeking favor often try to do some techniques advantage when so once we're happy we'll be more lenient. For example, this technique is used by American recruiters, especially the ones that want to underpay you. When they do the interview, you have such an impressive resume, and this is the only time when a recruiter is gonna compliment you, when they want to pay you miserable ridiculous amount of money. I gotta tell you, this techniques is applied a lot here in America. Just compliments you, and then the moment that they start the interview with complimenting me, I already know that's a red flag for me because you don't even know me yet. You could talk about it, you could test me, whatever it is, but complimenting me on the moment that you start the interview, it's a problem. Just be aware of that. If only advertising thrives and appearing directly to our ambitions and vanities. We are flattered that the ad is aimed to us, at least we want to believe that is. Love bombing. This weapon is all a flattery and overdrive. In this case, we would constantly be told how wonderful, great, gifted, rewards, compliment, and to to and held up to others as a beacon of awareness. So usually when somebody is loved bombed, they start to kind of transfer their own perception of self to others. Especially if somebody love bombing you, then you start to believe that you need this person to compliment you in order to see your self-worth. And this is why love bombing, it's so like, as a manipulation technique, is very effective, because once you get hooked to this, I would call this positive supply of support, and you subconsciously drop your self perception and you give it in the hands of others, the moment that this person feel that, because they do feel that, they will start putting you down. And this is where you're gonna be devastated, because you're gonna believe everything negative this person said, because you believe the positive things, and now you depend on their opinion. And this is exactly how this game works. Reaffirmation. The expert in this field will use the evaluation and reaffirmation as a perfect ruse. They will withdraw their compliments and drop you suddenly, or rise a risk of it, only to pick you up again shortly after, full of praise. Like a addict, you will do anything to assure you get your fix of flattery and approval. So reaffirmation work with people who are codependent. So how, why it works this? Give you attention, affirmation, positive support. If you do not do this to yourself, if you don't give attention, affirmation, positive support to yourself, and you decide to give this task to Mr. Perfect, and Mr. Perfect do it for a certain period of time, then you stop to rely on yourself and you become codependent of Mr. Perfect. And then what happens once they drop you? You're lost. You are starting to seek what's wrong with me, what happened, what's not happened. So this reaffirmation works with codependent people. You depend on opinion of others to see your value. You do not see that you make a great meal. You need Mr. X to say that. If he doesn't say it, you're nothing. This is exactly the mindset of codependency, and this codependency is built through charging others. And this charging, I'm using a word, happen subconsciously, but transferring the responsibility of others to give us affirmations, and to self-valuing through the other people admission of our value. We need Mr. X to say this is good, this is great, you're good, and then we feel worth. But if Mr. Hicks suddenly disappear from the picture, you feel nothing. You're nobody. So this happen only when we are codependent. We give tasks to others that we should give to ourselves. Self-affirmation, we should do this to ourselves. We should know if we did good or we didn't do so good. And this also involves critical thinking. We cannot always rely on others to give us positive affirmation. We need to give it to ourselves. Allegiance and alliances. Politicians marketing excellence. Okay, allegiance and alliances. I noticed this. Some people do this. For example, my ex, he would try to get all my friends to convince me that there is something wrong, that he's poor guy, that I am hurting him and whatnot. So I'm not gonna read this. Lies. Those who seek to deceive us won't be straight with the truth. Twist the fact to suit, withhold the full picture, present a certain image that is not the whole truth, deny any alleged wrongdoing, contract themselves as a result of being tangled in their falsehood and unconscious inconsistencies, disorientations, moving the goal posts, or goal points. Maybe you have thought that if you do something, there will be a certain result. Once you've done it, there Another target in the horizon. That's a classical one. Mood swings. So people who use mood swings to manipulate you usually are also people who lack of ability to communicate. So they will have extreme rage and then act like they're the kindest person ever. This is scary, right? Blame. Just when you think someone is at fault, they will turn around and say, "You're doing wrong. You're so bossy. It's your fault," and whatnot. Switch hero. This technique is along similar lines with the last one, involves su- sullying, and criticizing others for crimes the manipulators has mastered themselves. He is such a liar. Lying is so awful. Watch out for people who do it. Turning the tables. This is very sneaky, as reversing the situation completely can make the wrongdoer appear as the good person. Acting innocent. Have you heard someone say, "Who, me? How could you even think about that? I would never do that." Playing the victim. Perhaps the manipulator takes things a step further. Guilt tripping. An extension of a previous tactic to is a tool often used by charity companies observing charity companies. Yes, you're a bad person. You don't want to donate for dying children. Yes, this type of thing. Minimizing. Minimizing people hope to deceive you will often minimize the impact of their actions. Yes, especially the bad ones. I mean, particularly and only the bad ones. Acting the joker. I'm only joking. So making abusive remark and then, "Oh, I'm joking, you don't understand." Gaslighting. Creating doubt in automatic assault rifle as the hands of manipulator. They want you to become unsure of what's true and what's not. Your memory and judgment are called into question, and once it takes root, it becomes hard to shake. You must be imagining, "You promise you wouldn't do this," and so on. Diversion, and now I'm gonna give some diversion techniques. Con artists and magicians often believe the secret of their success is diverting the audience attention into the wrong direction. Shifting responsibility. This tactic is used quite often. "I would love to help you, but those are the rules. My boss says, and I gotta do this." Excuses. Don't be fooled by the one. Abusive people will often seek to explain their wrongdoing as something normal. Shaming. If you're confident for their wrongdoing, they may attempt to shame you into thinking you got the wrong end of sticks, you didn't understand. Evasion. Met with vague comments and generalization when searching for a practical and clear answer. Ghosting. Oh, ghosting. This is the. I think the society is sick with ghosting nowadays. Our also known as a silent treatment. It's a damaging tactic. Allow me to share. I had a boss once who, when he did want an answer of something, a request for a pay raise or tricky issue or needed sorting with a client, for example, he would literally disappear. My emails will go unanswered until you drop the issue. If you drop it, I think if somebody ghosts you, you should consider them dead. Really. They don't. This is the beginning when you know it's completely wrong. Promises of change. They can often be given to guilty of toxic behaviors. They are putting off a final showdown until another day. Everything will be changed, will be different. Passive aggressive. Let's be honest, most of us either done this on encounter in some way. It's the art of pretending not to want something or arguing for an end result while acting as the subject of fur- furthest thing from our minds. Okay. Techniques of undermining aggression. Oh, yeah. I think Americans are a master of aggression, ghosting, and neglect. This is the truth. Someone else's aggression and rage can often force you into submission because you fear or because your reaction is trigger punishment. Those tactics can come from physical violence, threats, or aim to weaken you, blackmail you. Maybe are being threatened with exposure of some secrets or shaming you for something. Bribery. It's a part of temptation to ploy we looked at earlier in this chapter. Imagined fear. Don't vote that way, or this will happen. This, oh, if you do this, God will punish you, or XYZ. Usually, all of this fear, it's some kind of a threat that you hear. If you take this decision, God will punish you or whatnot. Sarcasm. So if they use sarcastic barbs, it's because they are looking to lower your self-esteem. Classic controlling technique. Exaggeration. When your views are deliberately misrepresented to make them seem absurd, irrational. Smears. Unpleasant people can often seek to besmirch the name of someone else so they can talk them down and remove them as a potential opponent. Fear then relief. That's this one has similarities mood swing as the reinforcement technique mentioned earlier, a reaffirmation technique. So in psychology, this creates in your brain some kind of a dependency in a hormonal level. You have the fear and then you have the release of hormones when it's peace, and this is whole like a narcissist abusive tendency. Isolation. Abusive type will often seek to separate you from friends and family. 6. Overwhelm. Any manipulator wants you to feel uncomfortable. Jargon. Salespeople or dubious mechanics often like to pose as experts and speaking quickly with complicated phrases, talking about things you don't understand. Statistics. Always be aware of bar chart, box pop posts, and little better politicians. Okay, this is not usual for day-to-day life. Comparison. Oh, okay, we know this one. Out of your comfort zone. Most deceivers thrive on their home ground. In familiar surrounding, you are at disadvantages which you must be mm, at your most worry or worst. Time limits. I have personality notice recently rise. Okay. Following the herd or following the group or the majority, otherwise there's something wrong with you. Brainwashing. This is not just the terrain of science fiction and spooky dys- dystrophias. We can often be force fed and views of one of person political party media. And we review a book about the brainwashing, quite few of them. So in this reviews of dark psychology, I already know what this means. Probing. Probing, most of manipulators are master of emotional intelligence and use sinister purposes, but I mean they employ observation, questioning, and listening. And information that you provide will be used against you if you want somebody to listen to you, and they will use that to abuse you. Believe me. Escalation. The foot in the door. Imagine that you have said that this is a problem now and the only okay, and this is the first step. Stage managed reciprocity. Have you ever seen in a situation when someone does you a favor then expects another much bigger one in return? Pushing your boundaries. Confession from a boardroom, sharp practice into action. The approach of success, Swiss job recipe for triumphant accomplishment. I note this to talk a little bit about it. Although Steve Jobs was very successful with money, he was a failure in my opinion in life. And I'm supposing you're gonna throw stones on me because I mentioned that, but he was extremely lonely and unhappy individual who was sick, very sick. So and also he died very sick and very lonely. So I don't see him as a idol of success. But here it is, working hard and building respect. Figure out what's not cutting the ice. Improve and be creative. Remain fluid. Give the impression of always being right. Don't believe in compromise. Ma. Enthusiasm. Sunny outlook. Talking up. Exceptional marketing. Creative advertisement. Brand recognition, build a fan base, doing down doing down the enemy, ruthlessness, using position of power, flattery, evasion, go win your gut, seize the moment. Well, I don't know if you're aware, but he was fired from a company that he started. So this whole technique sim didn't bring him much of success and happiness. I think this is poor advices. But anyways, you feel free to follow whatever you like. One may smile and be a villain, the insider story of a master manipulator. Image, colloquialism, vision, positive, ruthlessness, bis, reductive, taking down. And this is interesting just for knowledge. Damage done to manipulation. Victims. Okay. Feeling foolish, devalued, doubtful about your worth, unable to file for or commit again, distrustful of others, lonely, suspicious of compliments, angry and upset. This has definitely happened, probably bitter if you have not let go. Inferiority complex, insecurity, anger, jealousy, lack of self awareness, low emotional intelligence, unable to communicate feelings, open to suggestion, negativity, allow others to put you down. Okay, this portion talk about Othello. I don't know if you know about Othello and Desdemona. This is an incredible book by Shakespeare. We did study Othello and Desdemona in Europe. Probably if you're Americans, you don't know the story of Othello and Desdemona. It's a very serious book, very interesting. But Othello characteristics were those. And then the last portion is, are you on the radar? Will take through range of personalities that tend to be susceptible to manipulation. Shrinkers. When you shrink next to someone, pleasers. Innocents or naive people, doubters, the vain. Chapter 4. Careless, submissive, self harmers, lonely, old or infirm, lack of self awareness, keeping it all in, low maintenance, stuck in a rut, full of empathy, and the negative effects of brainwashing or manipulation, or psychological manipulation and brainwashing, coercion, and deception. Low self esteem, shelf and humiliation, guilt, shut down, poor self care, eating disorder, reduced performance, scared of being alone, damaged relationship between friends, family, fear of commitment, lack of trust, doubt what you believe is correct, and certainly anxiety, disappointment, danger, feeling in danger. What to do in order to avoid manipulation technique? Ask the inner you. Trust yourself. Own up to the problem. Face it. Don't deny it. Establish limits your own with yourself first. Look for inconsistencies in behaviors and words. Hold people accountable, which you're not always able to. Check for credentials. Be vigilant. Have the whole picture. Seek safe, neutral place. Maintain a network of support. Don't play along. Stop it, shut it down, walk away from it. Be honest, compromise, hide vulnerabilities. Try something new. Cut ties, do therapy, call for assistance. And then in the end, you have a guide for ethical approaches. It's now the moment to motivate. And there is a different techniques. What I want, or would I want this? Improve my life. Do I believe what I'm saying? Maybe ask for second opinion. The gift of positive prompting. Self-control is the key. Keep your team clean. Root out the problems. Avoid toxicity. Be patient. Be assertive. Be careful. Reward. Concrete on what you believe in. Inspire trust. Be empathetic. First with yourself, then others. Strong verbal communication skills. Read some books how to communicate. Be approachable. Sunny outlook. Positive reinforcement. Open and transparent while also being honest and fair. And this is, guys, our beautiful book, Emory Green, Proven Psychological Manipulation Techniques. Very beautiful book, right? Very interesting. I hope you learned, you enjoyed this review. Thank you for being here. Bye bye.